Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day so far. This is Yari and my channel about the freelance photo and video production. And today's our topic is my recent purchase, DJI RS3 gimbal. I got this gimbal about a few days ago on Amazon. Just in case if you're interested, I'll keep the links down in the description below. Immediately I have to mention that I already had a gimbal, which is Zhiyun
Disgusting.
Weebill S. I'm sure I pronounced it completely incorrect, but so far as I know, even for the Chinese people, sometimes it's quite complicated to pronounce this name correctly. And right away I can tell you that this is an amazing piece of gear. And when it was released back in 2019, it was praised by many photographers and videographers for how stable it is and how it is convenient to use it. And especially for its size, just look at this baby. I mean, look, it's just tiny and it fits almost to any bag, it almost fits into your pocket. And even up to today, I consider it as one of the best options for the beginner, especially considering the price. Right now it's about $300 or even less. It provides really amazing stabilization and it's very easy to handle. It's very light, so you can handle it for a long periods. But at the end of the day, I came to the decision that I have to move on, I have to leave this gimbal behind and I have to purchase a new one. So why exactly that happened in the case if I love it so much? For the past year I shot many projects in Dubai with a Weebill S, and right now I know this gimbal from all the sides. I know the positive, the cons, and I can make just completely separate video just talking about how I love it and about few details which I really don't like about it. But I don't think that you're here to listen about this guy. But just in case if you are interested, just let me know in the comments below. Before we start talking about the DJI RS3, I would like to mention that these are my initial impressions because I only had one shooting so far. I don't know this gimbal so good as I know my Weebill S, so I have to get more practice with this so I can describe more about the pros and cons. So first of all, I have to answer why I decided to switch from Weebill S to RS3. The main reason is a portrait mode. It may sound weird, but nowadays it's getting more and more popular around the social media. So basically most of the social media marketing just concentrates the whole attention on the TikTok videos and on the Reels. Who could think like 5 years ago really that the vertical video will become a thing? In 2019, when Weebill S was released, of course it wasn't such a big thing yet, so there is no particular dedicated vertical mode. There are several options how in fact you can use it as a vertical mode. What I was doing few times, beside the handheld of course, you can shoot in FPV mode and then you just tilt it that way. That is just really weird position and you're getting tired so fast you cannot keep the right angle and it's just awful experience, but it can get the job done in case if you have to shoot for a couple of seconds only. Another option is to mount the camera cage vertically on the plate, but in this case it becomes really impossible to balance it because the gimbal arms are really too short to balance it properly. And at the end of the day I had to shoot mostly horizontally and then crop it to use it vertically. Honestly speaking, it's very difficult to plan it properly whenever you're shooting this way, so basically this way of shooting sucks. And with a DJI RS3 you don't have such a problem. You can mount vertically with no any issues because it has a longer arms and it can handle a heavier payloads because of the stronger motors. In fact, there are 3 ways you may shoot the vertical videos with this gimbal. Well, first of all, you may switch to a vertical shooting mode directly at your gimbal. It's really fast and easy way to do that, but there is one tiny problem in that. You may shoot in a vertical mode only in a flashlight position. And this is fine in a case if you're shooting some low angles, but as soon as you're shooting a high angle, that can become a problem. First of all, the stability abilities of your drone are really limited in this position because some of the axes are limited. Secondly, your arms are getting tired pretty fast. In a case if you're shooting like that for 1 minute, your arms are already shaking, so you're getting a shaky image. The second option, you can purchase a special vertical mount for the gimbal. There is a branded DJI vertical mount which fits for both RS2 and RS3 gimbals, but it costs about $100. So in a case if you are willing to spend this money, that's a perfect solution. Third option, you can purchase a camera cage, which I consider the most reasonable option, especially considering that sometimes it's even cheaper than a vertical mount for DJI RS3 or RS2. Besides that, you can use this cage for many other purposes. Alright, enough about the vertical shooting modes, let's talk about the handling of RS3. First of all, when you just take it in your hands, you can feel how premium the build quality, and you can feel that it's definitely much more expensive gimbal after the Weebill S, which feels really plasticky and very light. But same time it's bulkier and heavier, so in the long term, if you're shooting for many hours, it's more difficult to handle, especially for your back. If you are a gimbal operator, you know what I mean. And this time I was shooting for 3-4 hours in a row, which is not a long time, and I got pretty tired. So I'm not sure how it's gonna be handling for a long periods, like a whole day wedding shooting, especially if it's a full rig with a camera field monitor. Otherwise, RS3 feels good and reliable to shoot with. However, you have to get used a bit if you're coming from another gimbal brand. Gimbal movement is really smooth and can be adjusted to your likings. Some of the raw shots look like they've been already stabilized on post, and still some angles feel sometimes jerky and difficult to follow. But I can say that for the past 3 years stabilization was improved significantly, it evolved and became much smoother. Later on I'll do a separate test and comparison with my old gimbal. Another thing that I find really convenient is the DJI RS3 touchscreen display. I feel that I started adjusting gimbal settings for each shooting situation really often, since now it is really fast and easy to do. Interface is really user-friendly and easy to interact with. Another extremely underrated feature is a Bluetooth connection to your camera. As soon as you connect it once, you just have to switch on your camera and gimbal, and they're getting connected automatically. Now, even without a wire, you can start recording with a single button press on your gimbal. Beside that, you can have a customizable button for which you can assign some other function, and I assigned for it taking photos, which is really convenient. What you cannot do without connecting with a wire is controlling the exposure of your camera, which otherwise is a really convenient option. Also, today everybody talks about the auto-locking function, which is really useful sometimes, but I wouldn't call it a game changer, especially if you're coming from DJI RS2. The only difference is that right now, whenever you're switching off the gimbal, it folds and locks itself same time. But I have to say that automatic unlocking is a much more useful function, because if you're like me and sometimes you're just forgetting to unlock some of the axes during the run and gun shot, you know how big disaster sometimes it can cause, especially if you're shooting, let's say, on a wedding or on a proposal, and then you forgot to unlock one of the axes, you're switching on your gimbal and it just starts making some weird noises and shaking, and then completely locks down and you have to reboot it completely, and you're losing almost a half minute of your time while you're shooting exactly particular important moment. It can just be a disaster during the shoot, and right now it's not a problem anymore. Also, to keep the picture full, here are a few things which I wasn't impressed with. Follow focus system doesn't feel that great. It's quite strong, but sometimes there is not enough of friction in the gears to rotate the heavier lenses. Fortunately, with Sony a7 III, I hardly ever need it. Every gimbal actually, in fact, has this kind of dead zone in the case if you're pointing it at some particular angle, and the RS3 is no exception. During the last shooting, few times I experienced the moments while I couldn't take the right shot because the gimbal stops moving at some particular direction while I'm pointing the camera at some particular angle, or it was completely bouncing to the opposite side. That basically happens because of the physical axis limitations, and here is slightly different from the Weebill S, so I just have to adjust myself and get used to it. Well, as for the conclusion, so far I loved shooting with DJI RS3. I don't regret the purchase, and especially if you are owning some kind of gimbal from 3-4 years, then obviously you have to go for it. In the case if you're having RS2, then I would think in a case if it's going to be a reasonable purchase or not for you, and I wouldn't say that you really need it. It feels reliable, responsive, and really convenient to use. Soon I'll be having more shootings with it, and I'll be sharing with you some of the results, so in a case if you'd like to see them, stay tuned. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe in a case if you don't want to miss it. See you soon in the next video. Take care and have a productive week.